The topic of our video today is the first of a series of new videos titled, Why? Is it a masterpiece? We are dedicated to exploring why BioShock is so admired, and we're going to tell you why BioShock deserves so much praise and why it deserves the full score. As I've always said, BioShock is, to me, the meaning of a work of art. Not just a game, but a complete work of art that belongs to the entire art community in the world. BioShock never needs to show off, and its creator has never modestly complimented its game, because Mr. Levine knows that his game is the meaning of pure art. And if a game it deserves a define, it is BioShock. BioShock is game, it's film, it's music, it's painting, it's a book, it's sociology, it's philosophy, it's tragedy, it's drama. BioShock is like a raptor that is in the deepest parts of the ocean, makes room for the deepest parts of your soul, and challenges human nature by telling a bitter story. Essentially, a work of art should be considered in general, and the overall experience it offers to its audience. But when it comes to answering the question, why is BioShock a masterpiece? Inevitably, we have to break through the different parts of this artwork and analyze the amazing details of this work. Let's start from the beginning. You know how important the first half hour of a video game is. That's when it can pull you completely into the game or knock you out of it, even if the game is still good. BioShock has one of the greatest beginnings in video game history, if not the greatest beginnings in game history. Why is that? A game must clear up many points for the player in the first half hour to an hour and let him know what the general is about. So BioShock does it in the fullest form that can be imagined. Let me tell you how. The same graphic view of Rapture in the video as we descend from the ocean and between the fish and suddenly see the lights of the metropolis underwater is more beautiful and amazing than any beginning in any other game. Then, in the first half hour, we see the general character of the city of Rapture and its inhabitants, the ugly and visible violence of the city, and even the power of the big daddies, and become familiar with plasmids. So the game has had a huge impact on you in the first hour and has made it impossible for you to let go of it anymore, because you constantly wonder what's going on here. What is the story of these big creatures and those little girls? Why is everyone attacking like crazy? It's called a great start to a game. BioShock's tragic story and masterpiece is the core of its existence. When we say BioShock is a masterpiece, it's primarily because of its great story. BioShock is one of those titles that, when you experience it, over and over and even for a long time after, you will think about the story of the game and review it in your mind. In fact, I have to say BioShock is BioShock because of its story. Andrew Ryan, the leader and creator of Utopia Rapture, built a city that wasn't going to be a madhouse full of murderers and addicts, but it did because it had no air, no land, no ocean, and man would end up screwing things up. When we look at Andrew Ryan's ideas, we no doubt see his genius and determination to bring humanity to freedom, to give everyone a choice, and to eliminate class division. But it was not used in the right way and ended in tragedy. The idea and underpinnings of Rapture's construction were correct, but Ryan was counting on humans too much. And on the ground where Andrew Ryan had run away to build the Rapture, he was laid down by humans himself. And I don't know how Ryan thought that if he brought these same people underwater, a utopia would be built without problems. Humans ends up ruining even if they is in heaven itself. It suffices to create value in a society that makes people different and superior to each other. This is where human greed rages and does everything to get as much of this value as possible and to give it to be superior to others. Essentially, Levine's belief is that the idealism and excessive perfectionism by man and separating a certain number of people for a particular city and a particular life will always have the opposite effect and will cause a human catastrophe. The reason for this, as I have always said, is that man is not perfect and cannot pursue a perfect life, no matter how hard he may try to achieve it. BioShock is full of wonderful characters based on the game's unique story. In the game, you usually find a lot of recordings of that character before you reach a character, and you can listen one by one. Interestingly, the voices of these characters are so unique and so well done that just by hearing their voices, you feel like you have known them for years and can even imagine their faces. The first answer to the main question in this video is, why is BioShock a masterpiece? The story, narrative and characterization go beyond the feat of this game we've never seen in any other game to date, and it shows how brilliant Ken Levine is. Excellent graphics, unique art design, and gameplay and combat are so great that they are placed under the fictional roof of the game, and this tragic story and extraordinary narrative has multiplied all the beauty of the game. Aside from the story, another major reason for BioShock's feat as a video game is its gameplay. And basically, we can't call a video game a masterpiece, but its gameplay is not a masterpiece. The gameplay of this game is so interesting and enjoyable that you just want to experience it more and more. BioShock gameplay is a world of diversity, and the variety of tasks you can do by combining left-hand and right-hand attacks, including weapons and plasmids, is fantastic. And so many different tasks are available to defeat enemies that it seems like the game becomes a new game every time. Undoubtedly, this combination of plasmids and weapons is the turning point of BioShock's dreamy gameplay and has greatly increased the value of repetition. BioShock is not a role-playing game, but honestly better than most role-playing games of the elements of this genre, such as promotion and the obvious impact of your decisions in the story, and things like this, and Ken Levine has wonderfully tied the gameplay to the story and the amount of people you take to progress in the gameplay, completely depending on the outcome of the story which you will get. As I mentioned, while BioShock isn't a role-playing game with multiple story branches and decisions, the decision to decide the fate of the little sisters in this game is one of the most difficult decisions in the game, because there is more Sir Adam, which is very rare and can buy more plasmids. But don't think that when you take them down to get more people, nothing has happened, and no one sees your cruelty. You will have to pay for your sins, and of course you will receive the reward of your good heart. Action in BioShock is fantastic, and this game is considered one of the most exciting first-person action titles in the history of games, which is both great in terms of shooter elements and in terms of combining shooters with special powers and creating a variety of results that make the game repetitive value very high. The fights in the game are very attractive and enjoyable, and especially the fight against the big daddies is very difficult and breathtaking. And the way they attack you with a terrible speed and sound, it really scares the human being. And interestingly, they are peaceful creatures by themselves, and they won't do anything to you unless you have anything to do with them and the little sisters. After you kill them and take control of the little sisters, you can use them to collect Adam, the main buying unit of plasmids, and ultimately decide the fate of these girls. You can return them to the same innocent little girls they used to be and get less Adam, or you can harvest them with a heartbreak to get more Adam. Another major answer to the question, why is BioShock a masterpiece? Space building and creating a world that is by no means unique in the world of games. And if we say that Rapture is the greatest city created in the history of video games, we have not gone wrong. The atmosphere of BioShock is extremely special and beautiful, and of course, sad and dead. BioShock has a unique, perfect, eye-catching, amazing, and beautiful art design that is presented in the city of Rapture and deserves to be seen over and over again. Despite being imaginary, Rapture fully depicts a human society and challenges human decisions and choices. I personally believe in terms of space, BioShock is the greatest game in history, and after it is other masterpieces like Bloodborne, and they are arranged. That is, I think even the titles of Mr. Miyazaki are slightly lower in space making than Mr. Levine's super masterpiece. Rapture was created so beautifully and elaborately by Mr. Ken Levine that it does not go through the seams and is thought of and calculated in every way and is a perfect city. When we look at the design of Rapture, its landscapes, the underwater world through the city's windows, the fish, the crazy and murderous people of the city, the destroyed places, the big daddies and the little sisters and everything else in the game, it is different from any other game in terms of design and artistic graphics. The artistic graphics that no other game has been able to present at this level, the environment and the city with these features and elements, and this sad and terrible fate and atmosphere for us. BioShock is literally unrivaled in this regard. You can't talk about BioShock and not say anything about Big Daddy. Big Daddies are arguably one of the greatest creations in the history of video games. extremely powerful and deadly creatures with a unique and terrifying design, who are, of course, a protector, who give their big hands to the childish hands of the little sisters who have been innocent girls and are no more, and protect them to the death. To create a world and a city like Rapture, and to design creatures like the big daddies and little sisters, each a metaphor of different parts and characteristics of human societies, comes from the mind of a genius with a broad view of social issues, customs, values, anti-values, and norms. Rapture was created with the attention to detail, and we see a very high quality of design everywhere in this cursed city. The point of the masterpiece about the design and space of Rapture is that although the city is disjointed and very devastated and abandoned in the game, the existential philosophy of its creation and the grandeur it had at the beginning of its era is fully visible. Rapture is like a very beautiful and attractive face that has suffered burns and accidents, and only the bottom of the face of its former beauty is still with it, which is also hard to see behind the ugliness and effects of the accident. Broken doors and broken windows, broken glass and spilled glass all over the city, ruined and looted shops, all sorts of junk and useless supplies scattered throughout the city, wild men attacking like animals, and streets like battlefields, full of weapons, bloodshed, murder, corpses, and limbs. In this case, the ugly covers all the beauty. This is the city whose beauty was supposed to be the ideal place to live, but it became a graveyard for the death of idealism and its inhabitants. As I mentioned in the previous videos about BioShock, the creation of such a city in the world of video games is the same as Andrew Ryan did in the game, except that Andrew Ryan's utopia fails and does not succeed. But Ken Levine is completely positive, and one of the greatest games in the history of this craft is created. In general, if I were to say in a general conclusion why BioShock is a masterpiece, I would say it's because it's a completely interconnected and integrated set of parts that are a masterpiece on its own. But when combined in a general format called BioShock, each of them is multiplied in value and much more visible. BioShock is a game beyond masterpiece in the eyes of the audience. In fact, no part of the game is separate from the other, and every element of this title, from gameplay to story and graphics and other, they have created a whole product that is completely interconnected. Personally, I believe that the most important point in a masterpiece game is a sense of complete continuity between all its parts, as if a strong glue and a powerful existential sap have connected all the different parts together, and when the game still enters into this space, it is as if it is drawn into it and its heart and soul are tied to it. In fact, if you think of the games that are great in your mind and imagine a time when you played them, you would know exactly that each one had a special feeling that never happened in another game. It is as if each of them has left a special taste in your mind. The obvious example of this is exactly BioShock game, which when you experience it, a strange and special feeling surrounds you, and you go into a rapture space like you have never experienced before. Ken Levine's special and pure art in the game making and creating a work of art in the place of BioShock is visible, and this game is designed to surprise you. Without a doubt, BioShock is a perfect game. And every time you play it, you'll understand it more, and you'll be more attracted to this game that Master Ken Levine has given to the world of games and to us. Do yourself a favor and experience this game.